Welcome back to the Calculated Risk Podcast. I am Tyler Shoemaker, joined as always by Kelley Ford. Got another excellent slate. I love this part of the season when we get into conference play. There's not a million undefeated teams anymore. Like, things are starting to kind of take shape in the college football landscape. And this weekend certainly is going to play a big part in conference title races, college football playoff race. We're going to talk about a big game in the group of five that's going to have some, New Year's Six implications here. So we got a lot on the line coming this weekend, and it's only going to get better from here. Kelley, what are your initial thoughts here on this Week 7 slate?
Initial thoughts are the same as always, Tyler. It's a college football Saturday. We don't get too many of them throughout the year. We're already halfway done with the season. Enjoy it. Make the most of it. You know you're going to get upsets. Just pray it's not your team. It's going to be fun, man. I can't wait. And yeah, we got some good games to talk about here today. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's get into our first marquee game, which is Oregon going to Washington. Current line, Washington -3 with a total of 67. I'll kick us off here on this one, Kelley. I project Oregon as a 2-point favorite here, as a road favorite. So about a 5-point discrepancy here from the Vegas line. I also project this total slightly under, and I already bet this under 67. I project the total at 61.5. So from a betting perspective, I've already bet this under. I think Oregon's defense is probably the most underrated unit in this game. So from a matchup standpoint, I've got the Oregon offense number 4 and the Oregon defense number 5. So Oregon's got 2 top 5 units for me. Washington's offense number 2 and climbing. It won't surprise me at all if they're number 1 at some point this season. But I think the biggest mismatch in this game is going to be the Washington defense trying to defend the Oregon offense. I've got the Washington defense number 28 in the country. So all that nets out to Oregon is my number 2 team. Couple points behind number 1 Oklahoma. Washington's my number 7 team. So this is a top 10 TSI matchup here. And the crazy thing is, I mentioned the conference title race. These are my top 2 teams in the Pac-12. Oregon's my number 1 Pac-12 team. Washington's my number 2 power-rated Pac-12 team. A lot on the line here because I project Oregon right now at 11.1 wins and Washington at 10.7. And this game, is essentially a toss-up. I have 53% win probability for Oregon. So the winner of this game is going to be in the driver's seat in the Pac-12. So I can't wait for it. What more can you say? I mean, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, you got elite quarterback play in this game. There should be some fireworks, but like I said, I do think the Oregon defense is probably the most underrated unit in this game. I'm curious to see what your numbers have to say about that, because this feels like a game where I would expect our numbers to be in the same neighborhood, but I'm curious where you have these defenses in particular.
Yeah, Tyler, there's no hiding it. This is a watchability score of 9.8 out of 10. It's my number 1 game of Week 7. It's the number 6 game of the entire regular season for me by that metric. It has the potential to be the game of the year in the Pac-12, especially with both these teams being well rested coming out of their off weeks this past week. Tyler, let's start with the resumes for these teams. I have Washington number 10 in my most deserving rankings. There is only a 39% chance that the average top 25 team would be 5-0 against the Huskies schedule. That's number 10 nationally. The Huskies are outscoring their opponents by 12.7 points per game, more than would be expected of the average top 25 team against this. That's number 4 nationally. For Oregon, they're number 12 in my most deserving rankings. They have the number 14 record achievement and the number 2 relative scoring margin. They're outscoring their opponents by 15.4 points per game, more than would be expected. That's best in the country outside of Oklahoma. The winner in this one is going to boost their resume that much more because they're going to collect a win against a top 10 power rated team. Tyler, you said it's a top 10 matchup for you. It's a top 10 matchup for me in the power rating world as well. The loser of this game probably won't be hurt too much in the most deserving rankings because the average top 25 team would not have a great win expectancy on either side of this one, whether they are, going on the road to Washington or hosting Oregon. So predictively speaking, Tyler, I'm closer to you than I am to Vegas here. I think I have it as a pick'em with the slightest of leans towards Oregon. I have a 52% win expectancy for the Ducks. you kind of touched on this, Tyler. These two teams, they're eerily similar. They have amazing offenses led by Heisman-level quarterbacks and defenses that are much better than expected. The Ducks are currently power rated at a season best 23.7 for me. That's number 6 nationally. The offense has been in the top 6 all year. They're currently number 4. And here's the defense for you, Tyler. They are up, the Oregon defense, that is. They are up to a season best number 18 for me right now. So, yes, they're not on the same level of the offense, but it's the best I've had them power rated all year. For the Huskies, they've been top 10 in the power ratings for me for the past month. They're currently number 9. The offense remains number 2 for the 3rd consecutive week behind only conference foe USC. You said it. I wouldn't be shocked if at some point they overtake USC for the number 1 offense in my unit rankings. The defense has been in the mid-20s for 5 weeks in a row now. So again, both these teams with just outstanding off-the-charts offenses and really good defenses, better defenses than I thought coming in. This game's in Seattle. Husky Stadium, one of my favorite environments in college football. Tyler, I absolutely love when that siren gets blasted on 3rd and 4th down. Like, I'm not a Husky fan. I'm not a Husky hater. I'm just neutral on Washington, but I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about that siren. Like, there's something about it. I don't know if it's the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if it's raining. I have no idea. That siren gets going, dude, and I am jacked up and ready to go. It's a huge advantage for the Dogs to be at home. This game could really come down to just which offense has the ball last. The winner of this game is going to be in the pole position to make the conference championship. Oregon would have an 87% chance to make it to Las Vegas if they win. My number suggests Washington would have a 76% chance to make it if they win. USC sitting there number 3 right now in those odds. Both these teams have to play USC upcoming later this year. That's going to be huge games for both those teams. But the winner here has a huge leg up. Bottom line, I have it as a pick 'em, 52% win expectancy for Oregon in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the schedule and USC looming. They've got a game that we're going to talk about here in a minute as well. So, yeah, a lot going on in the Pac-12. I'm very curious to see how that shakes out. But before we get to USC, let's head to the Group of 5, where Tulane heads to Memphis in a huge game that's going to have New Year's 6 bowl game implications. Tulane, their only loss was to Ole Miss in a game that looked worse than it actually was throughout due to a fluky late touchdown for Ole Miss. I think Tulane is very good. The line currently sitting at Tulane -4.5 with an over-under of 54.5. And Kelley, I'll let you give your thoughts on this game first before I dive in.
Yeah. Tyler, you said it. This game, it's got huge leverage in terms of the chances to make the American Athletic Conference Championship game. SMU's the favorite for me right now. They have a 71% chance to make it to that title game. They're playing at East Carolina, so not a whole lot of upside for SMU this week, but there is big downside if they lose that game. Their chances fall to just 47% chance. But number 2 and number 3 on this list are these two teams, Tulane and Memphis. I currently have Tulane with a 55% chance to make the champ game. If they win this game, it jumps up to a 72% chance. But if they lose, it falls to a 35% chance. For Memphis, they're currently at a 37% chance to make that title game. A win would put them up over 50% at 56. A loss would drop them down to a 20% chance. And if UTSA wins their game against UAB, UTSA would actually pass Memphis in the chances to make it. UTSA would go up to 27. So huge game here. The winner's going to be projected to make the conference championship game when I run those numbers coming out of this weekend. As we look at this game, I have it as Tulane -1. I know they're on the road. I know it's the hardest thing to do in college football, go on the road and win. I've talked about that before. Tulane's power rating, Tyler, to start the year, 5.2. They were number 44 in the country. Their power rating currently, 5.2. They're number 43 in the country. So it's almost exactly where we started. But it's not the units that are performing to the levels that I thought. They've almost offset each other perfectly. The offense has been, significantly worse than I expected. They're down to number 54. The defense has been much better. They're up to number 45. For Memphis, this team, again, they started the year at 1.3, power rated number 60. Now they're 1.9, power rated number 54. So kind of the same deal we were looking at before. They are overachieving. They have a strong resume that they put together. Their only loss, neutral site against Missouri so far. That Boise State win was a good one for this Memphis team. Now they come into conference play. They're 1-0 already, but now they get in the meat of conference play. There's only 2 games in which my numbers make Memphis a projected underdog. It's this one by a point, and it's SMU in week 12, also at home, though, by 2 points. So they've got to play both these teams. Tulane and SMU do not play. That's worth noting for the conference race. So offense number 43 for Memphis, defense number 77. To me, that's probably the difference. That Memphis defense is it's the worst unit in the game by a decent margin. So I know they're at home, but my numbers lean Tulane -1, 53% chance to win it.
Yeah, so our numbers are really similar here, both, I mean, just on our raw power rating and the units, it sounds like. So I make this game Tulane -2.5. I project the total at 50.5. So disclosure, I've already bet Memphis +5. The line's at 4.5 now. I also would lean to the under here in this game because, like you said, Tulane, when we talked about them in the preseason, like, I think our numbers had a pretty big discrepancy on Tulane's units. I was like, I think they're going to lean heavily on the defense, and you were like, oh well, I've got it flipped because last year they were awesome on offense, with Ty J. Spears, but the offense really has taken a huge step back. Now, to be fair, they did play multiple games, I believe, without quarterback Michael Pratt, who is their best player. So that probably has something to do with their offensive rating taking such a dip. I've got them, the offense number 30 in the G5. So, I break my numbers out. I do have it nationally all together, but then I also break it out G5. So for this matchup, I wanted to give context that they're number 30 in the G5, but their defense is number 1 in the G5. Whereas Memphis, number 13 offense in the G5, number 20 defense in the G5. So, Memphis kind of balanced relatively in terms of their offensive and defensive rating. Tulane's defense by far the best unit in this game. My raw power rating on Tulane 6.2, so about a half point off of where you're at. And Memphis 1.0, so within a point of where you've got them. So our models seem to be pretty in lockstep with how they view these teams. Like you said, I've got Tulane my number 2 AAC team, Memphis number 3, with SMU being the number 1 team. I project Tulane with 9.5 wins right now, which is funny because I do have them projected as a favorite in every remaining game, but it's just like such a low win it's like 52, 53% win probability. So when you add them all up, it comes out that they're projected to lose, more games. So it's kind of funny just how that works out, even though they're favorites, projected favorites in every game from here out. And I've got Memphis at 8.5 projected wins. So, a team can pick up a nice, basically half a win here on their projected win total by winning this game. And you outlined, what that's going to mean for the conference title race and presumably seeing SMU in that game. So a lot on the line here for these teams. This is, maybe not from a national casual college football fan perspective. Maybe those people aren't excited for this, but I'm excited for this game. I think it's going to be a great game between two kind of under the radar teams. Memphis is definitely under the radar, and Tulane, I think maybe earned a little bit of respect by beating USC last year in the Cotton Bowl, right? I believe so. So that's going to wrap up that game. Let's get to our last marquee matchup. We mentioned it a minute ago. USC going to Notre Dame, and I don't know that there's two more fascinating teams right now in college football. Notre Dame, their athletic director needs smacked in the face for the scheduling that he put his football team through this year. They start off in week 0 in Ireland, and now they've played. This will be their 8th consecutive game with no bye week. I mean, it's been an absolute murderer's row. They played Ohio State at home at night, went to Duke at night, went to Louisville and lost at night, and now they're going to play USC and the reigning Heisman winner Caleb Williams at night. I mean, that's just brutal and unfair to ask of them to be able to perform at their peak for 8 straight weeks in that type of gauntlet. So I do kind of feel for Marcus Freeman and those players because I think they're better than what their record is probably going to end up now this year because of the schedule. But this line currently Notre Dame -2.5. I think you can see some threes out there with an over-under of 60. I project this Notre Dame -7.5. And again, that's just raw data. That's not taking the situational spot and the fact that they've played 8 games into consideration. So definitely factor that in, if you're looking at this game from a betting perspective. And as well, my numbers project more on the over, but again, I have concerns. I don't know how much Notre Dame has left in the tank here. So, the numbers here, again, the numbers are the numbers, but just situationally, I have real concerns about Notre Dame in this spot. Although situationally, USC is coming off a triple overtime win against Arizona in a game they arguably should have lost. So I don't really love the spot here for either of these teams. So it might just be, an ugly game all around, because I don't know how much either of these teams are really going to have left in the tank. From a matchup perspective, USC is my number 3 offense right now. They fell. They had been number 1 for a while. They have fallen off because they only had 28 points in regulation against Arizona last week. So not super impressive there. And their defense, a lot's been made of their defense, but Kelley, are you ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
Their defense is ranked number 101 in my defensive ratings. 101.
It's not
for a
good,
team for a team that has national champion.
You're like Iowa. You're like Iowa flipped.
Yeah, they are the inverse of Iowa. Like I don't, for a team that has national championship aspirations, and I tweeted this sometime in the last week, like they're really going to waste 2 years of one of the best college football players we've seen in recent memory, and Caleb Williams, and they might not even get a playoff berth out of him because the defense has been so bad. Like, it is inexcusable that Alex Grinch still has a job. I'm sorry. On the other side, Notre Dame, completely balanced. Number 17 offense, number 17 defense for me. So completely balanced. They are kind of slipping. Those unit rankings are kind of slipping here as we go on. But again, I mean, like I said, I feel for them situationally. USC has slipped to number 5 in the Pac-12 in my ratings. I now only project USC at 8.5 wins because their schedule is about to get real tough starting this week. And I don't think the defense is going to get fixed, and it's going to cost them multiple games, in my opinion. And the numbers bear that out as well. I've currently got Notre Dame projected to win 9.2 games. And I think they're better than that from a just raw talent and, team strength standpoint. But my gosh, I mean, I can't say enough about the scheduling, just complete failure by the athletic director here for them. So I do feel for them. Kelley, what are your thoughts here on these two teams in this matchup?
My thoughts are you stole all my notes, Tyler. No, you hit on like everything I wanted to talk about. So I'll rehash a couple of those points, but I'll skip past a few others to not belabor it. Man, what a difference a week makes. Less than 7 days ago, Notre Dame and USC were both top 10 AP teams on a collision course in South Bend. Then the Irish get run off the field in the second half at Louisville. USC needed 3 overtimes to beat a middling Arizona team in the Coliseum. Despite the poor performances a week ago, these teams are still ranked in my most deserving metric. USC's number 15, Notre Dame's number 22. With a watchability score of 9.4, this is still the second best game of the week for me. So it's lost some luster, but I'm still excited about this one. It's a rivalry. I always get up for those, even if it's not my team. Right off the top, Tyler, you can't overemphasize this enough. You hit on it. I'm going to hit on it too. 8th game in 8 weeks for Notre Dame. It includes a trip to Ireland, as you said, coming off consecutive road trips to Duke and Louisville, as you said. It's just brutal. Just absolutely brutal. How much is left in the tank for Notre Dame? I don't know. We're going to find out. Notre Dame's been power rated between number 10 and number 13 for me all year. They're currently number 13. The Irish have the number 17 offense and the number 12 defense. My numbers favor the Irish in every remaining game left in the regular season, and they assign them a 23% chance to finish the regular season at 10-2. With Notre Dame's CFP hopes all but gone, Tyler, what better way to pull themselves back up than dealing a huge blow to the playoff chances of one of their chief rivals? Tyler, have you seen Breaking Bad? I already asked you this before. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So forgive me if I already shared this story with you. I texted somebody during the USC Arizona game before we even went to overtime. And it was just a gif of Jesse when he's like kind of screaming up at almost nobody, but about Walter White. He's like, he can't keep getting away with it. That's exactly how I feel every time I watch USC, like the last 2 years. Turnover luck in 2022, close calls already this season against subpar competition. This defense cannot keep getting away with it, Tyler. Like, it's criminal that they have not been punished yet this year. I mentioned when you were going about, this kind of like the inverse of Iowa. And like, how many times can we ask the same thing about Iowa? Well, how many times can we ask the same thing about USC? The Trojan offense is number one. They have been number one for me since week 2. The overall power rating topped out at number 4 going into week 4. And the Trojans have now fallen to a season low number 14. It's because this defense, I don't have them as low as you do, Tyler, but I have this defense number 63. You can't do that. You're USC. You have way too much talent. You have way too much promise on the offensive side of the ball to have a defense that's this poor. It really is. It's like Iowa just totally flipped and inverted from offense to defense. It's crazy. At some point, like you said, it's going to cost the Trojans. It very well might be this weekend in South Bend. If not, then against Washington and or Oregon in a couple weeks. Bottom line, I have Notre Dame minus 2.5. It's a 43% chance that USC moves to 7-0 on the year.
One final thought before we get into our rapid fire segment. They are like Iowa, not only from the performance standpoint, they're like Iowa in that the coaches take no accountability for it. Like, for instance, with Iowa, when Kirk Ferentz gets pressed or when Brian Ferentz gets pressed about why the offense sucks, he basically acts like, well, it doesn't suck. What are you talking about? And I saw a quote from Lincoln Riley, or a video from Lincoln Riley this week, where he, kind of gets emotional and is taking up for his defense, which, okay, I can understand him sticking up for his guys. And I'm not saying that he should throw them under the bus, but to just blatantly pretend like, well, everything's fine. I don't know what he said everyone's already made up their mind on the defense. And it's like, do you watch your defense play? Like, yeah, we've made up our mind because your defense sucks. That's why we made up our mind.
This isn't a new thing. This isn't a USC thing. This is a Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch thing. Like, dude, this has been permeating for years, going back to when you were in Norman. And so, hey, again, credit to them because they're undefeated, and it hasn't bitten them yet. I'm telling you, it's going to bite them at some point. This might be the weekend. They might get off again because Notre Dame is just dead and doesn't have anything left after the schedule that they've done. I don't know. I think Notre Dame can get up for it one more time, 4th week in a row, prime time, like you said. This one's at home, big time rival. Like, I think they can get up for it. And if they do, and if Notre Dame plays their A game on offense, especially, I don't think USC is going to be able to get enough stops. So we will see. But credit to them, they're undefeated. See how long it lasts.
Yeah, if this game was in like week 2 or 3, I would be all over Notre Dame in this spot, at this line. But again, you got to factor in the psyche and the physical toll that their schedule's played, and from that standpoint, I don't like it for Notre Dame. All right, so that's our marquee matchups of the week. Obviously, we're really excited for those. We're going to hit on a handful of other games here, just rapid fire. We're just going to give our projections, give what the line is, so that you guys know where our models stand on those games. If you're just looking to be more informed watching the game, or from a betting perspective, we're gonna run through some of those here real quick. One note on this first game: so North Carolina hosts Miami. Real quick, we have to mention it quickly.
We don't. We don't have to.
Mario Cristobal with the all-time worst coaching performance in the history of football, probably top 5 at least.
Only to be outdone by he did it at Oregon against Stanford in 2018. Tyler, I'd be reminded of that. Like, dude.
So here's the thing: everyone in the country that wagers on college football games is going to be betting North Carolina here. They're a 4-point favorite. The total's 57. And Kelley, it's taking every ounce of my being not to put my American currency on Miami +4, because I project them I project this basically as a pick 'em, because 2 weeks ago they were my number 1 power rated ACC team. But everyone saw what happened last week, and now everyone's going to run and bet North Carolina. Situationally, this is like the mother of all spots, because North Carolina looked awesome against Syracuse. Miami obviously just completely crapped the bed against Georgia Tech. this is the spot for Miami, but I cannot do it. I can't bring myself to do it. I did bet the under, though. Total's 57. I project 54. I bet the under. We'll go faster on these other ones, but I had to get that out of the way. What do you have on North Carolina, Miami?
My numbers have North Carolina -5.5. It's a 65% win expectancy for the Tar Heels.
All right, next up, Oregon State hosting UCLA. Line currently Oregon State -4 with a total of 54.5. I project Oregon State -0.5 point with a total of 53.5. So slightly into the under, slightly into UCLA here.
I got Oregon State -4.5. It's a 63% win expectancy for the Beavers.
All right. In what's essentially going to be the Big Ten West Championship here, division championship, Wisconsin hosting Iowa. Wisconsin's a 10-point favorite with a total of 36. I project Wisconsin -13.5 here, total of 44.5, which makes me extremely nervous that I'm 8 points over the total. I'm not betting it, but there does seem to be an edge there according to my numbers.
My numbers have Wisconsin -7.5, 70% win expectancy. And yes, Tyler, this is the Big Ten West. I mean, mark it down. This is it. Winner here is going to be in the pole position. Wisconsin with a win goes up to an 81% chance to make it to Indy. Iowa's chances with a win go to 55%. With a loss, Wisconsin only drops to 44. So it's still, in the balance there, but Iowa with a loss all the way down to 18%. So a Wisconsin win essentially settles it. An Iowa win, and it gets interesting, but Iowa would then have that tiebreaker, of course.
Next up, and this is another big, really big Mountain West Group of 5 game here. Air Force hosting Wyoming. Air Force a 10.5 point favorite with a total of 42.5. Wyoming, again, situationally quickly, Wyoming upset Fresno State as I believe, 5.5 point dog last week when that TSI had Wyoming as a 1 point favorite, I should point out. Wyoming's now going to have to turn around off of that high. They stormed the field in Laramie. Now they're going to have to go to Air Force, and Air Force is very good. I've been very high on them all season. I project Air Force -12 with a total of 50.
Air Force -11.5, 79% win expectancy. The winner of this game will be the favorite by my numbers to make it to the Mountain West Championship game.
All right, and our last rapid fire, Alabama, who seemingly has maybe turned a corner. We'll see. Hosting Arkansas. Alabama -18.5 is the current line with a total of 48.5. I project Alabama -14.5 with a total of 46.5.
I got Alabama right on the Vegas line, -18.5. It's a 90% win expectancy for the Crimson Tide.
All right, that's going to do it. Can't wait for week 7. We will be back on Monday with our recap and updated power ratings, resume rankings, which, oh my God, Kelley, I've mentioned resume rankings are not the reason I started doing this. It's not necessarily my expertise, but I do put time and thought into it. I did start putting them out this last week, and did that generate some contentious conversations on Twitter. It's been a glorious week from me, from the mute button. So been a good week on Twitter for me.
My favorite GIF on Twitter is Tony Reale just smashing the mute button. I love it. Every single Sunday morning I do it. Every single Monday morning I do it when I post the ratings and rankings. Welcome to the party, Tyler. We're happy to have you in the mute club.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So we'll be back with all of that on Monday. Be sure to subscribe, like the videos, tell a friend. Follow me on Twitter, X, @TShoeIndex. Follow him @KFordRatings. This is brought to you by SaturdayGlory.com. Follow @Saturday_Glory. For Kelley Ford, I'm Tyler Shoemaker, and that was Calculated Risk.